Good morning, this is Clark with the CK team, and along with me is Jose, Renee, and Joffrey. And today's topic would be what you need to do when you need to sell your home in order to buy a new one. Now, there are a multitude of reasons sellers would elect to sell their home. One could be diapers, the family is growing, need a bigger house. One could be downsizing. You're downsizing from a 3-story house to a single-story house. You don't want to deal with stairs. It could be divorce. It could be death. It could be dogs. You have a big dog who needs a bigger yard. And if you live near the base, like here in Las Vegas, deployment, you're doing permanent change stations and you need to sell in order to buy a new one wherever you're going. So if you're buying a new construction house, the range of time for builders to build that new house could take between 2 months to 12 months. And many times, let's say it's like 8 to 12 months, people would elect to rent an apartment after they sold their home, or rent a house, or live with one of their relatives after they sold their home while waiting for that new construction home to finish. That could be expensive, and that could also be tough because you're gonna do a double move. You might have to rent out a storage facility in order to put your stuff. And you can also have an investor who's bought several of my clients' properties. So this investor bought the home and then let them rent out up to a year, and then they sold it, they got the funds, and then now they're just waiting for that house, for that new construction home to finish, and then they move, and that saves them time, money, and the stress. But what if you are buying a used or an already built house, Jose?
Thanks, Clark. So do you guys know that a seller can give the keys to their buyer, while the house that they're trying to buy, they're gonna get the keys on that same day? Well, this is what we call a subsequent closing. So it just means that everything is gonna happen on that one day. But it is hard, it is tricky, but it's not impossible. It can be done. The reason why we say it's hard, it's a bit tricky, is because everybody has to be in sync. It's got to be in sync with the buyers, with the sellers, the realtors who's representing you, and then also the title companies and the lenders. Everything has to be done, confirmed on that one day. Now, let's say you got to sell your house, but you're not going to get the keys of that house for the one that you're buying. You're not going to get the keys from that new home probably in a few days or 2 weeks or so. Now we have what we call a seller leaseback. It's where you have to disclose this to your buyer of your home and let them know that after you guys close, that you will rent the house back. Well, now this seller leaseback addendum, what it's gonna consist is how many days, and of course how much you guys are gonna be paying for that one per day, what the rate is. But your realtors will be able to help you out, to guide you through this. Also, there's another thing of subsequent closing, but it's just in a much larger scale. It's where you're trying to sell your home, trying to buy, and everything has to close in that one day, and the person you're trying to buy from also has to sell, also has to buy, and it just trains up. But as again, it's not impossible, but it's just a bit tricky where everybody has to be on the same page. Now, what's the worst that can happen if you need to sell your home, but the closing is not probably for another 2 months or so, and the person that's buying your house don't want to lease it back to you? Well, then now we gotta find a home that you're gonna rent month to month until you get to close, until you get the keys from that new place that you're trying to buy.
So yes, I had an experience where there's 4 homes closing in all the same day. My client is the second home, and so the problem is if the first homes had a problem with closing or had a delay with closing, everyone has got to be delayed. So on those types of closing, there has to be very open communication between the title companies and the lenders to make sure that all record on the same day and prevent issues from happening. So there are also problems that can happen along the way if you're needing to sell in order to buy. And can you tell us some of those problems, Renee?
Absolutely, Clark. Yeah, so we all want to live in a perfect world where everything goes perfect. But in a real estate transaction, especially when you're selling a home and at the same time trying to buy one, problem arises, and we're not gonna lie about it. It happens. Problem like the title issues, financing issues. We've got contractual disputes if the buyer and the seller don't agree on the terms. There's also unforeseen circumstances like natural disasters, death in the family, things like that. As far as financing goes, there's also a solar, company issues or financing issues about the solar. So open communication with a lender who is well versed in securing solar financing is crucial. Also, when it comes to title, the earlier you identify it, let's say there's a lien that you don't know about the house, things like that. It's very important that you communicate with the title companies. Also, the agents, the buyer agents, the selling agents should all have to be, always being proactive and, day to day, things like that. Like call each other, or send email. As far as these issues go, a very simple solution like everyone is talking about is open communication. Set a deadline. You gotta have to set your realistic expectation. We're gonna have delays. There's also contingencies you have to put in place. Like Jose said, if you sell your home and then the one you're buying is not ready to close yet, you gotta have to have a place where you can, stay. But remember, a real estate transaction is always unique. So, identify the problem, and then you have to, put a solution in place accordingly.
Yes, so identify the problem early solves a lot of more often than not solves a lot of problems. Simple problems on regular transactions can be exacerbated if there are multiple transactions involved. One case would be, let's say, you need to sell your home in order to close on another home, and your buyer is delaying their loan, and that means they're delaying their closing. You're going to delay your closing on the next home, and you can be fined every day that you don't close on that house. And you could lose a lot of money if your buyer doesn't get approved along the way. You're gonna lose your earnest money deposit on the one that you're buying. So it's very important to have open communication and have competent lenders and competent title companies. There's also logistical issues wherein we had this chance where the seller or the buyer went out of the country. For something like that, let the title company know and let the lenders know, because there are ways to go around that. They can sign a special power of attorney who could sign on their behalf, or they could use a remote online notary wherein they could do a remote notary signing. It's kind of like a Zoom call. So there are also transactions where you're selling a home and buying another home for tax purposes and for tax deferment, and that would be discussed by Jeffrey.
Yeah, definitely. So if you own multiple properties like Jose and Clark here,
or Jeffrey,
you might want to consider a 1031 exchange. Why? Because it defers your taxes. So if you sell a house, you are subject to capital gains taxes, and that's actually a lot. So if you don't want to pay those taxes and you want to buy another house after selling the other one, 1031 exchange is probably the way to go. So the way it works is, if you put your house on sale and you go under contract, you have about 45 days to find a similar property in equal or greater value than the property, and you have to use 100% of your proceeds on the sale so that you could use a 1031 exchange. That's pretty much the basic rule of all that. It's good for investors because they get to move money without paying taxes at that time. You could defer your taxes, and you could upgrade the home that you are selling. So if you want like a more updated house, bigger than what the ones that you're selling, 1031 exchange is probably the way to go.
Definitely. So yes, capital gains taxes. If you're there is a difference when you're selling a primary home and a difference when you're selling a rental property. So that's our topic today. If you find what we're saying is to be educational and you're learning something from it, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Again, this is Clark, Jose, Renee, and Jeffrey. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
you.